During my time with Breath of the Wild, I've spent a vast amount of my energy exploring the ins and outs of all of the Sheikah shrines scattered across Hyrule, each housing an Ancient Sheikah Monk, each gifting a spirit orb, and each leaving the player with a message. Seeing as the monks immediately fade away after completing the shrines, I've always placed a certain amount of weight behind the words they leave behind. They're literally the final thoughts of beings frozen in time for thousands of years. But of course, this is only a video game, and seeing as the base product has 120 shrines, most of what the monks have to say is generic. For instance, a vast majority of them will tell the player, "Your resourcefulness in overcoming this trial speaks to the promise of a hero. In the name of the goddess Hylia, I bestow upon you this spirit orb." However, there are two other messages relayed to the player that I found to be rather mysterious. The first is stated by every monk that presents the player with a test of strength. Your triumph over this test of strength subverts a prophecy of ruin. From the ashes of Hyrule, a hero rises. And the second quote coming from almost every monk that does not feature a puzzle or test of strength. "You have done well to arrive at this shrine. A hero rises to right the wrongs of Hyrule." At this point, I'm sure you're wondering what exactly I'm getting at. I'll cut to the chase. Is it possible that the Sheikah monks knew Calamity Ganon would destroy the kingdom? Better yet, did they have a hand in the destruction of the very monarchy that banished their technology? Let your mind's eye guide you on a journey back 10,000 years ago to learn the truth about the Sheikah's betrayal of Hyrule's royal family. Before you continue, might I suggest that you balance oneself by hitting that subscribe button. I'm on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me if we could reach that goal at some point. I've also recently launched a new set of Ocarina of Time merch. For those that are interested in supporting the channel, you can pick yours up by heading to the merch shelf below. Now, for that theory. By now, I'm sure most of you are aware that the Zelda mythos is mostly governed by the Triforce, and especially since Skyward Sword has revolved around power, the spirit of the demon, wisdom, the spirit of the goddess, and courage, the spirit of the hero. Throughout most of the series, these have been held by Ganondorf, Zelda, and Link respectively. However, this has not always been the case. Skyward Sword, the first game in the timeline, shows the origins of the never-ending cycle of these three spirits. It also manages to explain the series' quirky concept of the same three characters always existing was actually wrapped up in some deep lore. I can bet you're asking what this has to do with Breath of the Wild, and most importantly, how this all ties into the Sheikah tribe and their mummified monks. Well, we'll get to that point soon, but for now, it would be useful to all of you if I were to delve deeper into the tribe. Throughout Breath of the Wild, the Sheikah are split into three groups. We have the benign Sheikah of Kakariko Village, the evil Yiga Clan, and the ancient monks left over from the time of the original Calamity. The game tells us that 10,000 years ago, after the tribe helped the hero and princess fight off Calamity Ganon, the royal family began to fear the Sheikah's technology. That fear festered, which led to the abolishment of all advanced tech throughout the kingdom. The Sheikah were then exiled and pushed out of Castletown. From here, the tribe splintered into the Kakariko dwellers, which respected the royal family's wishes, casting aside all of their technology, and the militant group of Sheikah, who felt disrespected by the royal family and chose to hold on to their traditions and technology, eventually forming the Yiga Clan. But the monks? After conducting further research into the subject, I found that their origins are rather mysterious. Who exactly are they? While majority of the Zelda community is convinced that the monks are members of what eventually became the Kakariko tribe, I'd like to propose a counter to that. My argument is that the monks that litter the underground of Hyrule are amongst the first Sheikah defectors of 10,000 years ago. Or rather, the founding members of the militant Sheikah group that eventually became known as the Yiga Clan. At first glance, they seem to be aligned with the Sheikah who founded Kakariko. You can see the classic designs and colors used to decorate their shrines. And these monks often talk about the goddess, which goes against the very nature of the Yiga we know. The clan seen in Breath of the Wild swears allegiance to Ganon and actively works to thwart the efforts of the chosen hero. If these monks were a part of this Yiga clan, would they actively help Link? It's quite possible the Sheikah defectors of 10,000 years ago followed different beliefs than their Breath of the Wild counterparts. In fact, it wouldn't shock me if the original Yiga weren't the heinous Ganon worshippers we know them to be in Breath of the Wild. As shown with the monks, it's possible the ancient defectors went back to serving the goddess and the Triforce, returning to their original calling rather than continuing to help the monarchy that stripped them of their precious technology. Hear me out. At the beginning of the timeline, we see Impa as a servant of Zelda and the goddess Hylia. However, a bit further into Hyrule's history, their role drastically expands. By Ocarina of Time, the Sheikah have become all-around protectors of the royal family, no longer exclusively tending to the goddess and her incarnations. From this point on, the tribe stuck by the royals, making sure to protect the family at all costs. The Sheikah went from devout followers of a benevolent goddess to servants of a royal family who eventually took their loyalty for granted. In my mind, it makes sense that, rejected by the royal family, the Sheikah tribe was split. Half went on to found Kakariko Village, ready to be of service to the royal family, while the others went back to worshipping the Triforce, the spirits of wisdom, courage, and power. Of course, I'm not saying that they just amicably left their role as the royal family's protectors, but they did indeed leave them. It's made apparent that at one point in the ancient past, the Sheikah as a whole were pushed into exile. As discussed, some ended up fostering distaste for the kingdom and felt wronged by this family that they had spent generations protecting. Left angry and betrayed, a large part of the ancient Sheikah packed up shop, buried themselves and their tech, not to be heard from for thousands of years. Those militant Sheikah that stayed above the surface eventually went on to form the Yiga Clan, continuing to use their tech amongst the shadows until their resurgence just before the second coming of Calamity Ganon. Knowing that, it's simple to see the webs that entangle the three factions. But RMFH, I hear you asking. The Sheikah shrines are mainly blue and orange while the Yiga rep Malice red. But RMFH, if the ancient Yiga worshipped the Triforce, why are they now trying to kill Link, the very personification of the spirit of courage? But RMFH, how exactly did the Sheikah betray the royal family? I do indeed have explanations for all of these. Firstly, majority of the shrines and Sheikah tech in general are actually blue and orange, not red. But then this is also true for the Sheikah tech from 10,000 years ago, as it hadn't been infected by Calamity Ganon's malice. The shrines use mainly blue and orange since the tech was made by a unified Sheikah, not specifically the Yiga Clan. However, there is one caveat to that. Monk Maz Koshaya, the final boss of the Champions Ballad DLC. During the fight with Maz Koshaya, one move in particular stands out. Maz floats into the air and his eye symbol glows orange before he begins to attack Link with a barrage of spiked balls. We only see this move used one other time. Master Koga, leader of the Yiga Clan of the modern era, is shown to use a lot of similar or even identical moves to Maz Koshaya. He's shown levitating, and just like Maz, can summon multiple spiked projectiles to launch at the player. Koga uses a similar technique that was supposedly passed down to him by his forefathers. I find it to be an interesting coincidence. How is it that one of Maz Koshaya's most iconic techniques is similar to that of Koga's? We never see any normal Sheikah in the game use these type of moves. The only ones to use it are Koga, the leader of the Yiga, and Maz Koshaya. The more astute of you viewers might have realized I left out one interesting detail about Maz, a move that directly connects the Yiga and the Ancient Monks. Watch what happens when Maz Koshaya performs what is known as the Sheikah Jump Strike. As you can see, those rings are glowing red. In fact, I'd say it's an eerily similar red to that of Malice. More poignantly, almost identical to the red rings seen when a Yiga performs the very same technique. The symbols are different for both, but the move is all the same. If you'd like to know exactly what these symbols mean, you can check this amazing video made by Zeltic covering the topic. Of course, I'll leave the implications of that for you to decide. But for me, it clearly ties the Yiga Clan to Maz Koshaya, and by extension, the Sheikah Monks. However, if the monks are indeed the ancient Yiga Clan, how could they then be so different from the modern Yiga? It's just a simple matter of how people work. Can you honestly say that your life nowadays is the exact same as it would have been had you been born in, say, ancient Egypt? Let's use this as a recognizable comparison to the real world. The culture, lifestyle, and most importantly here, the religion and beliefs of ancient Egypt are so incredibly different to modern society. And that's not to mention that the generally accepted date for the founding of what we call ancient Egypt was only about 3150 BC, meaning that ancient Egypt was only founded about 5,000 years ago. So if we can double that incredibly huge amount of time, it doesn't seem that outside of the realm of possibility that a tribe's belief system could slowly shift. Perhaps over the spans of millennia, the belief system of "we worship the Triforce, including the goddess, hero, and demon," slowly simplified to "we worship the demon king, Calamity Ganon. Oh, and we want bananas." Another possibility is that there was a leader of the Yiga who shifted the mindset. And with Breath of the Wild showing us Master Koga, crazy things like that don't seem that unusual. In fact, before Link goes to the Yiga hideout to recover the stolen Thunderhelm, Liana, one of the Gerudo town guards, specifically says, "We believe them to be descendants of the Sheikah tribe that splintered and turned to villainy." Not that they are that tribe, but specifically that they are their descendants. I just thought that it was a particularly interesting choice of words. As for the monks' betrayal, look at all the destruction Calamity Ganon caused. Perhaps the monks received revelations from the goddess Hylia, but due to their banishment, they were unable to pass on this information. Or in our case, these ancient monks set up the royal family to topple, left without aid from the very technology they had pushed out of the kingdom. Recall the first quote I mentioned. It's as if they knew this would all one day happen. How else could all of this technology, the Guardians and Divine Beast, be so easily manipulated? Or how about the very existence of the shrines themselves? Buildings used as training grounds to prepare the hero of the wild to face the calamity the ancient monks sicked on the kingdom of Hyrule. A sort of reset button, if you will. A quick flip of the proverbial switch, restoring the land of Hyrule to its rightful heirs. Princess Zelda and the spirit of the hero, Link. As an extra, something rather interesting that I found, which honestly could lend credence to this theory, at least in some way, is a neat parallel to the real world. The etymology of the words Yiga and Koga. Iga Ryu and Koka Ryu, sometimes called Koga Ryu, are probably the two most famous ninja traditions of feudal Japan, both founded during the Muromachi period. While I'm no expert on Japanese history, let alone the art of ninjutsu, from my research, I've gathered that the Iga was specifically proficient in skills such as disguise, escape, concealment, and explosives. Interestingly, we see all of these skills present in the Yiga Clan, so it seems clear that the inspiration is there. Funny enough, the Koka Ryu tradition was never passed down, but there is documentation to prove that the Iga Ryu and Koka Ryu were both based off of the same original teachings, although they went about things in different ways. I just find it interesting that the current leader of the Yiga Clan was named after the Koka clan, not someone significant from the Yiga Clan, like the legendary ninja Hattori Hanzo. Perhaps this name choice was deliberate, referencing that the Yiga Clan under Koga is far removed from the beliefs of the original Yiga Clan of 10,000 years ago, now known only as the Ancient Monks. You know, based on the same teachings, but using it in a completely different way. Either way, when Link finally goes to meet these monks, skin and bones, beings left behind by a bygone age, Yiga who buried themselves underground in regret, anger, and betrayal, they finally get the opportunity to tell him, the one hope they've held on to for 10,000 long years, a hero rises to right the wrongs of Hyrule. But of course, these wrongs were likely entirely unrelated to Calamity Ganon. These so-called wrongs were all about easing the regrets of the monks and dismantling a royal family built upon fear and deceit, returning Hyrule to a world ruled entirely upon power, wisdom, and courage. Hey, thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. It's been a few months since I last put out a Zelda theory, maybe not 10,000 years, and maybe not long enough for you all to hold an ancient grudge, but hopefully this video was able to right the wrongs of this channel. And please, leave a comment with your thoughts on today's video. Do you agree or disagree? Is there anything I may have missed? I had a few long conversations with my occasional writer and editor TGM. With a game as big as Breath of the Wild, there might have been all kinds of things we didn't add to this video. As always, please leave this video a like so I know to keep making more like this. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. This channel is on the road to 100,000 subs. Let's get that goal smashed out by the end of the year. Any support is much obliged. Before I get going, I wanted to say thank you to all my subscribers, supporters, and most importantly, my channel members. You all help keep this channel alive, and I hope to continue to bring you consistent content into the future. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you all on the next video. Peace out.